opening scene of the Vanishing Hour immerses the reader in Grace's world, a quiet coastal town where the rhythm of the ocean mirrors the steady but fragile routine she's built for herself. The inn she owns is more than just a business. It's a refuge, a place where she can maintain control after the chaos of her sister Hannah's disappearance shattered her life. The walls of the inn hold echoes of the past, photographs, half-remembered conversations, and the ghost of Hannah's laughter that still lingers in the corners. Grace moves through her morning tasks with practiced efficiency, checking reservations, brewing coffee, straightening the same crooked painting in the hallway. But beneath the surface, there's an undercurrent of unease. She's trapped in a cycle of grief and guilt, replaying the last moments she saw Hannah, wondering if she missed some crucial clue that could have saved her. The town around her is picturesque, all salt-kissed air and charming storefronts, but to Grace, it feels like a gilded cage. Every friendly smile from a neighbor is a reminder that they've moved on, while she remains frozen in the past. Then, there are the nightmares. In the quietest hours before dawn, Grace jolts awake, sweat-drenched, the remnants of a dream slipping through her fingers. It's always the same, Hannah's voice calling out, a shadowy figure pulling her away, and Grace, powerless, always a step behind. The vanishing hour, 4 a.m., is more than just a time. It's a curse, a moment when the world feels thin and the line between memory and reality blurs. This opening scene sets the tone for the entire novel, a haunting blend of melancholy and suspense. Grace isn't just a protagonist searching for answers. She's a woman drowning in the weight of what-ifs, and the reader can feel the storm brewing beneath her carefully composed exterior. The sea, ever present outside her window, is both a comfort and a threat. Its tides a reminder that some things, like loss, like obsession, never truly recede. The tranquility of Grace's carefully constructed routine shatters when Ava arrives, a guest with an easy smile and a restless energy that feels familiar in a way Grace can't quite place. There's something about her, the way she lingers at the front desk, asking about the best places to watch the sunrise, or how she hums absently as she unpacks her suitcase in room 3, that stirs an old dormant dread in Grace's chest. But she brushes it off. The inn is full of transient souls, after all, each carrying their own quiet burdens. Ava is just another passing shadow. One morning, Grace knocks on Ava's door to deliver fresh towels and finds the room eerily untouched. Bed neatly made, suitcase still half open, a paperback splayed face down on the nightstand, as if Ava had just stepped out for a moment. But her phone lies abandoned on the dresser, her jacket still draped over the chair. Grace's pulse quickens. She tells herself there's an explanation, a morning jog, an impulsive stroll along the shore, but when hours pass with no sign of Ava, the excuses crumble like wet sand. The same hour Hannah vanished. The realization hits Grace like a rogue wave, stealing her breath. It's not a coincidence. It's a pattern, a predator's signature etched in the dark. The local police are polite but dismissive, chalking it up to another restless traveler who changed her mind and left. But Grace knows better. She spent years drowning in the aftermath of a disappearance, and now the tide has dragged another woman into the depths. As she pores over Ava's belongings, a train ticket stub, a receipt from a diner 2 towns over, a scribbled note with a phone number that rings unanswered. Grace feels the past and present collide. The same questions, the same helpless fury, the same suffocating silence. But this time, there's a difference. This time, Grace isn't a grieving sister in the dark. She's a woman with a purpose, and the vanishing hour has just become her battleground. The scene thrums with quiet horror, the kind that slithers under the skin. Ava's absence is a void, mundane, ordinary traces of a toothbrush left on the sink, a single earring on the windowsill, the way the curtains sway, though the window is shut. Someone was here, someone took her, and Grace is the only one who seems to hear the clock ticking toward the next vanishing hour. The moment Grace decides to investigate Ava's disappearance, the world around her shifts. The cozy, sunlit inn becomes a backdrop for secrets, and every guest's smile now feels like a potential lie. She starts small, methodical, because that's who she is, a woman who has spent years clinging to order in the wake of chaos. But this time, the chaos isn't just in her memories. It's unfolding in real time, and she refuses to let another woman slip away without a fight. She begins with Ava's room, treating it like a crime scene, even if the police won't. The bed is too neatly made, as if someone straightened it after Ava was gone. The paperback left behind, a thriller about missing girls, feels like a cruel joke. Grace's fingers tremble as she flips through the pages, searching for underlined passages, hidden notes, anything. But there's nothing. Just the quiet, suffocating normalcy of a room that shouldn't be empty. Then she finds the first crack in the facade, a receipt crumpled in the wastebasket from a gas station on the edge of town. The timestamp, 3:42 a.m., 18 minutes before the vanishing hour. Grace's breath catches. It's a thread, frayed, but tangible. She follows it to the gas station where a bleary-eyed clerk barely remembers Ava, but the security footage, grainy and flickering, shows her buying bottled water, her posture tense, her eyes darting toward the door, as if she was waiting for someone, or running from them. Enter Thomas, the journalist whose presence should feel intrusive, but instead feels like the first real ally Grace has had in years. He's been digging into missing persons cases along the coast, his notes a tangled web of timelines and dead ends. When he shows Grace his files, her stomach drops. There are others, not just Hannah, not just Ava, women with different names but the same haunting emptiness left behind, a lipstick on a nightstand, a single shoe in the sand, all vanishing in the same cursed hour before dawn. Together, they begin stitching together the fragments. A witness, an insomniac painter who works late, claims to have seen a black van idling near the inn the night Ava disappeared. A bartender mentions a man who asked too many questions about girls traveling alone. Each clue is a piece of a puzzle Grace isn't sure she wants to solve because the picture forming is monstrous. The investigation is a slow unraveling, not just of the mystery, but of Grace herself. She sleeps less, her dreams invaded by Ava's face morphing into Hannah's. She starts second-guessing every interaction, every stranger's glance. The town, once a place of quiet solace, now feels like it's closing in on her, its quaint streets hiding something rotten beneath the surface. And then, the locket, tucked beneath Ava's mattress, tarnished but unmistakable. Hannah's locket, the one she wore the day she vanished. Grace's knees buckle. This isn't just a pattern, it's a message, and it's meant for her. The scene is thick with the weight of obsession, the kind that blurs the line between justice and vengeance. Grace is no longer just searching for answers. She's stepping into the dark, and the dark is staring back. Grace's kitchen table is no longer just a place for coffee and ledgers. It has become a war room. Maps, newspaper clippings, and Thomas's hastily scribbled notes sprawl across the surface like the bones of some terrible beast they're trying to reconstruct. The overhead light flickers, casting long shadows that make the faces in the missing persons' photos seem to twitch, as if the women themselves are stirring, begging to be remembered. It starts with a timeline. Thomas lays it out with the precision of a detective, though he's just a journalist chasing a story that's gotten under his skin. 5 disappearances over 3 years, all within a 50-mile radius of the coast. Different towns, different circumstances, except for the hour. Always between 3:30 and 4:30 a.m., that liminal space when the world is hushed and even insomniacs finally succumb to sleep. The vanishing hour. Grace runs her finger down the list, and the dates seem to pulse under her touch. Every 6 months. Like clockwork. Then, the photographs. Thomas spreads them out. School portraits, candid shots, grainy surveillance stills. Women in their 20s, all with a certain resemblance, slender, light-eyed, hair falling between shoulder and collarbone. Like Hannah, like Ava, like her. Grace's reflection glimmers in the dark window behind them, and for a dizzying moment, she's not sure if she's the hunter or the hunted. The gas station clerk's testimony was the first crack, but the painter's account is the sledgehammer. He'd been up mixing cerulean blues for a seascape when he saw it, a black van with a broken taillight, parked near the inn's back alley. He didn't think much of it until Grace showed him Ava's photo. Yeah, he says, squinting. She was arguing with someone. Tall guy, maybe. Couldn't see his face. But the van's description matches one spotted near 2 other disappearances. Back at the table, Grace circles the dates in red. The next 6-month mark is 2 weeks away. The realization slithers into the room. This isn't just about solving the past. It's about preventing the future. Thomas leans forward, his voice low. They're not random. They're chosen. The word lingers, poisonous. Grace thinks of Ava's things still sitting in room 3, of Hannah's laughter trapped in old home videos, of all the empty spaces where women should be. The pattern isn't just a clue, it's a countdown. And Grace is suddenly, terrifyingly certain that the clock is ticking for someone else. Grace no longer sees her town as a postcard perfect haven. Now, every face is a mask, and every friendly gesture carries the weight of suspicion. The once familiar streets feel like a stage, and everyone is playing a part. As she and Thomas dig deeper into the pattern of disappearances, potential suspects begin to emerge from the fog of ordinary life, each more unsettling than the last. First, there's Liam, the fisherman with sun-bleached hair and a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. He's a fixture at the docks, always willing to lend a hand with heavy crates or share a drink at the local bar. But Grace notices the way his gaze lingers on young women who pass by, the way he seems to know everyone's business without ever revealing much about himself. When she casually mentions Ava's disappearance, his reaction is too smooth, too practiced. Tragic, he says, wiping his hands on his jeans. But you know how girls are these days, always chasing some adventure. The comment sits wrong with her, a little too dismissive, a little too cold. Then there's Miranda, the enigmatic guest who arrived at the inn just days before Ava vanished. She keeps odd hours, slipping in and out at night, and her room is unnervingly bare. No personal items, no clutter, as if she's deliberately left no trace. When Grace tries to strike up a conversation, Miranda deflects with a charm that feels rehearsed. I like to keep things simple, she says, her fingers drumming restlessly against her coffee cup. There's something about her, the way she watches the other guests, the way she seems to be waiting for something, that sets Grace's nerves on edge. And then there are the others, lurking at the edges of the investigation. The bartender who remembers serving Ava but can't recall who she was with, the mechanic with a history of violence who owns a black van. the reclusive artist who paints portraits of women who look eerily like the missing. Even Thomas, for all his help, has moments where Grace catches him studying her a little too intently, as if she's part of the story he's trying to crack. The town itself becomes a suspect, the way it swallows secrets, the way people look away when Grace asks too many questions. "Some things are best left alone," an old-timer mutters at the diner, and the warning hangs in the air like smoke. Grace's paranoia grows, a creeping vine wrapping around her thoughts. She starts double-checking locks, jumping at shadows, replaying conversations in her head, searching for hidden meanings. The line between suspicion and obsession blurs. Every smile feels like a lie. Every stranger could be a predator. And then, late one night, she sees it. The black van, idling at the end of the street, its broken tail light glowing like a warning. The hunt is no longer theoretical. The enemy has a face. The inn is silent except for the creak of floorboards under Grace's weight as she slips into Ava's vacated room one last time. The police have already combed through it, the town has already moved on, but Grace cannot shake the feeling that something remains. Some overlooked whisper of truth buried beneath the surface. The air still carries a trace of Ava's perfume, something floral and fleeting, like the memory of a season that never quite arrived. She isn't even sure what she's searching for anymore, just a hunch, a pull in her gut that refuses to quiet. She lifts the mattress, runs her fingers along the seams of the suitcase left behind, checks the pockets of abandoned jackets. Nothing. Then, as she kneels to peer under the bed, her fingertips brush against cold metal. The locket is small, tarnished with age, half hidden in the shadows where the dust gathers. Grace's breath catches the moment she sees it. She doesn't need to open it to know. She knows. The delicate engraving on the front, the tiny scratch near the clasp from when Hannah had dropped it on the bathroom tiles years ago. Her hands shake as she pries it open. Inside, the photograph is still there. Two sisters, cheeks pressed together, frozen in a moment before everything unraveled. Time collapses, the room spins. Grace's knees hit the floor with a dull thud, the locket clenched in her fist like a holy relic. This isn't just a clue, it's a message, a taunt. Hannah didn't just vanish into the night. She was taken by the same hands that took Ava. And those hands are still out there, still reaching, still stealing women from their lives with methodical precision. The revelation doesn't come as a shock so much as a slow, sickening unraveling, like a rope finally giving way after years of fraying. Grace had always feared Hannah was dead, but now she understands it's worse than that. Her sister was part of something larger, something monstrous, and Ava's disappearance wasn't an isolated tragedy. It was part of a cycle, a pattern, a hunt, and the most terrifying thought of all, she's standing right in the middle of it. The air is thick with salt, and the coming storm when Grace steps onto the docks, the plan coiled tight in her chest like a second heartbeat. She has spent nights rehearsing this moment, every word, every glance, the way she'll let her voice waver just enough to sound lost. The weight of Hannah's locket against her skin is a reminder, an anchor. This time, she won't be the one left searching in the dark. This time, she'll be the bait. She chose the location carefully. The old pier where the streetlights flicker and die, where the fishermen pack up before sunset, where the black van was last seen idling like a patient predator. She wears Ava's jacket, close enough in style, close enough in silhouette, and lets her hair fall the way the others had, the way Hannah's did in the photos, a performance crafted from grief and rage. Thomas waits in the shadows, camera ready, his presence both a comfort and a risk. If this goes wrong, there will be no one to call for help. The police have already written Ava off. They'll do the same for Grace if she vanishes into the same hungry dark. But the thought doesn't terrify her like it should. Instead, it sharpens her focus. She wants the monster to see her, to choose her. The first hour passes in silence, the only sound the lap of waves against rotting wood. Then, headlights. A slow crawl along the waterfront. Grace's pulse thrums in her throat, but she doesn't turn, doesn't run. She lets her shoulders slump, the picture of exhaustion, of vulnerability. The car stops. A door opens. Footsteps, deliberate and unhurried, crunch over gravel. "You okay, miss?" The voice is all polite concern, but Grace knows it for what it is, the first tug of the net. She turns, and for a heartbeat, she's staring into the face of the man who's been hunting in her town, her home. His smile is benign, his hands loose at his sides. Nothing about him screams monster. That's how they do it, she realizes. That's how they get away with it. "I think I'm lost," she murmurs, leaning into the role, into the trap. Somewhere in the dark, Thomas holds his breath. Somewhere in the past, Hannah screams, and Grace steps forward to meet the night. The moment the van door slides shut behind her, Grace realizes her mistake. The air inside is stale, thick with the scent of sweat and gasoline, and the interior light flickers like a dying pulse. The man, Liam, she recognizes him now, his fisherman's calluses and easy smile turned sinister in the dim glow. Doesn't bother with pretense anymore. The mask of concern has slipped, replaced by something colder, more calculating. "You're smarter than the others," he says, almost admiring as he peels away from the shadows near the driver's seat. His voice is the same one that charmed her at the docks, that offered to carry her groceries, that asked after her sister with faux sympathy. Now it drips with a quiet amusement, as if this is all a game they've been playing, and he's known the outcome from the start. Grace's fingers tighten around the canister of pepper spray in her pocket, but her body betrays her. A tremor in her hands, a hitch in her breath. She'd prepared for this, rehearsed it in her mind 100 times, but the reality is different. The van is moving now, the world outside blurring into streaks of streetlight and shadow. She's not just setting a trap anymore. She's in it. Liam watches her, his gaze lazy, confident. "You really thought you could catch me?" He laughs, low and rough. "I've been doing this a long time, Grace. I know how women like you think." The words hit like a physical blow. Women like you, the ones who ask questions, the ones who don't look away, the ones who refuse to let the world pretend their loved ones simply vanished into thin air. Grace's fear hardens into something jagged and bright. This isn't just about Ava or Hannah anymore. It's about every woman who's ever been told she's paranoid for locking her doors, for crossing the street, for clutching her keys between her fingers like a weapon. It's about the fact that Liam expects her to fold, to freeze, to be just another victim. So she does the one thing he doesn't expect. She lunges. The pepper spray misses his eyes, but catches the side of his face, and his roar of pain is the sweetest sound she's ever heard. The van swerves, tires screeching, and Grace doesn't wait. She scrambles for the door handle, her nails scraping metal, her shoulder slamming into the frame as the vehicle lurches to a stop. Cold air hits her face as she tumbles onto asphalt, the impact sending white-hot pain through her ribs. Somewhere behind her, Liam is cursing, stumbling out after her. Somewhere ahead, Thomas is shouting, his camera forgotten, his hands reaching for her. But Grace is already running, not away, toward the truth, toward the end of this story. Because tonight, the hunter becomes the hunted. The warehouse smells of damp concrete and something sharper, bleach, gasoline, the acrid tang of fear soaked into the walls. Police lights pulse through broken windows, painting the scene in jagged streaks of blue and red. Grace stands in the center of it all, her body numb, her mind reeling. They'd found the black van, the hidden lockbox with IDs, the Polaroids of women with hollow eyes pinned to a corkboard like trophies. A hair ribbon tangled in the floorboards, a chipped coffee mug with lipstick still clinging to the rim, and then, beneath a loose floorboard, Hannah's journal. Grace's hands shake as she opens it. Her sister's handwriting floods the page, so achingly familiar it steals her breath. The entries start hopeful. Liam says he knows a bartender hiring downtown. A detective pulls her aside, his voice careful, practiced. They've matched DNA from the warehouse to Hannah's toothbrush. They've found remains buried near the old shipyard. Grace doesn't scream, doesn't collapse. The grief that comes isn't a storm. It's the quiet after one, the world washed clean and unbearably still. She'd spent years chasing ghosts. Here's the truth, laid bare in ink and bone. Hannah didn't vanish. She was erased. Grace stands at the edge of the pier, the same place where this nightmare began and ended, where the salt air once carried whispers of disappearances and dread. Now, it smells only of tide and morning. The sun climbs higher, painting the water in gold, and for the first time in years, Grace does not search the horizon for answers. The inn behind her is alive with voices. Thomas in the kitchen, brewing coffee strong enough to wake the dead, laughing on the porch, her suitcase bright with stickers from places she's been. The walls no longer echo with absence. Grace has filled them with something else. Purpose. She wears Hannah's locket openly now, no longer a hidden wound, but a testament. The police returned it to her after the trial, along with the journal and a box of other things once belonged to women whose names Grace has memorized, whose stories she refuses to let fade. She's turned the inn's parlor into a memorial of sorts, not with candles and grief, but with action. A bulletin board lists resources, hotlines, self-defense class schedules. The first Tuesday of every month, survivors gather here, and the room thrums with voices that no longer whisper. Liam is gone, locked away in a place where the sun doesn't reach, but Grace knows better than to believe the world is empty of monsters. She still checks the locks at night. She still watches the clock as 4 a.m. approaches. Some habits are scars. Thomas joins her at the railing, handing her a mug. Their fingers brush, and it's not fireworks. It's steadier than that. A shared weight, a quiet understanding. He doesn't ask if she's okay. They're past that. Instead, he nods toward the water. Think we'll ever stop seeing them out there? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.